took over as CEO of Crime Stoppers International, right? Tell us a little bit about what Crime Stoppers, and can I just point out that this is not her day job. Everything she's going to tell you now, she does not get paid to do. She has a day job and kids and a husband and everything as well, and then she does this. Tell us about Crime Stoppers.
Right, so Crime Stoppers International is a global not-for-profit. We operate in 33 countries. There's about 850 programs, and we collect community intelligence is the best way to put it, and that's through anonymous reporting platforms. So people can report to us anonymously about any crime. In some regions, it's things like stock theft and people doing things they shouldn't do at the supermarket. But at Crime Stoppers International, it's transnational organised crime, so human trafficking, child sex abuse, narcotics, cybercrime, anything like that, and connecting that all so that we can dismantle those criminal networks.
I was going to say, how do you look at that and stay normal, but then don't answer that?
I'm not normal.
You're definitely not normal, because there's so much pain and rage and inequity in the things that you look at. And you've worked in Crime Stoppers for a very long time, right?
No, only a couple of years.
And then so you became CEO quite quickly?
Yes, yeah.
When we were talking, there were a couple of things I wanted to ask her about, and she was like, no, don't do that. Ask me about something else. And one of the phrases you used, which I did not understand, was a spam compound.
Scam compound.
See, I don't even know how to say it. Does anybody know what a scam compound is? Have you heard of this? You have? Yeah, no, I just don't know. Please, just explain this. It's mind-blowing.
So, who has been the victim of a scam before? Most people. Now, what you'll actually find is a lot of the people perpetrating those scams are actually victims themselves. They're in what we call forced criminality. Now, forced criminality is where lots of them are human trafficked into scam farms, mainly in Southeast Asia on the Thai-Myanmar border, where they are forced to commit these scams and they have KPIs. And if they don't reach them, they're tortured. In one of the scam compounds, they have rooms. They're different colours, red, black and white. And if you make it into the black one because of punishment, you don't come out alive. And many of the people that do escape the scam compounds, eventually their families pay money to get them out and things. Many of them don't survive because of the guilt they carry, because of the crimes that they've had to commit to exist inside those compounds. So it's a complex thing, really, that there are victims in all parts of scams, it's not as simple as they're all bad people. They're caught up in serious, transnational organised crime groups, and those groups, it's not just scams. That money goes to funding terror cells in the Philippines. It goes to, funding child sex abuse networks, to human trafficking. One tip that we received a few years ago was about illicit tobacco, and people think, oh, who cares about illicit tobacco? That's just getting money, taking it from, the tobacco companies. Well, actually, it does matter, because just recently, many of you will have seen there was a terror attack in Sydney at Bondi, and the individuals that perpetrated that attack actually did their training in the Philippines with a Philippine terror cell. Now, a Philippine terror cell actually gets their funding from illicit tobacco. They send the shipping container full of illicit tobacco in one direction and then fill it with sex slaves on the return journey. And some of those sex slaves are as young as 9 years of age.
I might go back to my hackathon conversation. It's so heartbreaking, and that's why I wanted you to be here today. I wanted to have this conversation because, I have children. We all are exposed to this in so many ways. You also, just on a slightly frivolous note, stopped me buying fake Chanel handbags, which is rude, honestly. I was having a good time, and she killed it for me.
Well, what I was referring to mostly there was how many of you remember the Charlie Hebdo attack in Paris, the satirical magazine? Well, the weapons for that were funded from the sale of counterfeit Nike sneakers.
So Chanel's okay. I can go back.
No. All of it is bad. It's all bad, and it's not just
offensive. It's like ruining like really important parts of life. So let's talk, because one of the other things that, so you've got to follow her on things like LinkedIn. She puts posts up like saying, oh, well, I went to Rio and then I got an armored vehicle to take me from the airport to the wherever. And I'm like, shit, I'm going to Rio. What am I meant to do? She goes, an armored vehicle? I'm like, oh, okay. I was almost like I was more comfortable not knowing that than, but that must be a common thought amongst people. If we don't know, not just because I'm stupid, but if we don't know, then somehow we have our head in the sand enough, right?
I think, especially in the current geopolitical environment, when people say to me, oh, I don't want to know, I don't watch the news, I think that's just asking us to walk into World War III. You know, it's
too late.
It's not yes, I know, but it's not okay to just ignore the issues. Although my husband has banned me from speaking to other parents at the school, but
The kids are never getting invited on a
I'm like,
play date.
that person could be a perp, right? Like, get out of here. No. It is difficult, but we do need to know these things because forewarned is forearmed, right? Knowing these things makes you better prepared to respond to the crisis.
But there is nothing about this on the news.
No.
So then what's the point of watching the news? Where do we hear about this?
From me.
Yeah, there you go. I'm putting you.
No.
So cybersecurity is a huge thing. In fact, you're speaking about it tomorrow in the Ice Village. Places that don't let me in without my pass thing, that one. And why is cybersecurity such a big thing in your life, in your focus, I think?
Right. So at the moment, we're working on a cybercrime bounty program where we're posting bounties for information that will take out cybercrime networks. Now, again, there's what we're referring to as crime convergence. So all of these criminal entities are linked. So all those things I spoke about before are linked to cybercrime, and there's not really much we do anymore that isn't linked to a cyber element of some kind. So in order to, we can't keep, I liken it to a tree, right? So there's your roots, your trunk, your branches. And in the fight against cybercrime, we keep chopping off the branches and just another one grows. What we need to do is kill the root system. And that root system is these complex, organised crime gangs that we need to dismantle. And with that, we'll follow other things in the criminal ecosystem. So, there's no way to get around it. I'm not a cyber expert, but unfortunately, cyber touches basically every type of crime, even domestic violence. There's versions of cybercrime coercion where they're paying into their ex-spouse's bank account, but they're making threats in the description line. So they get their bank statement and it says, I will kill you tomorrow or whatever it might be. So, and I consider that to be a cybercrime because it's enabled by a cyber aspect.
Tell me, as a person, as a human, as a woman, how do you sleep at night? The things that you know, right? Do you not think that? I'm like, the things that I don't know enable me to sleep. And look at you, you're a titsy little thing. And here you are with all these massive decisions that you make and these insane, and you do some really dangerous things. How do you sleep at night? Does it impact you, or are you just like, somebody has to do it and that's me?
I've kind of always felt like you shouldn't really sit on the sidelines and just comment. You need to get in and do something. And as we mentioned before, I started out my career as I was the youngest graduate of Australia's intelligence officer program. And
she so was a spy.
And I went and worked in counterterrorism, in the front lines as a 22-year-old. And so I pretty much got all my scares out then. I definitely thought people were going to slit my throat and all sorts of things. And I definitely checked under my bed like a child before I run and hopped in, slept with lights on and things. But now I just kind of think if it's my time, it's my time. And I'm going to do everything I can right now to make it better for my kids.
I told you she rocks, right? Like, this was worth it to have an extra call. What should we do? What do we need to do to help? Because, again, this is something that you're not paid to do. It's something that's part of, your civic duty. That's a much better phrase for it. It's the end of the day. What can we do to help in any way as people or as organizations? Davos has some of the most power in the world here, right? What could we do?
Well, the first thing is don't buy counterfeit goods. Second is share.
Apart from that,
Share our Illegal Empire campaign. If you'd like me to send you a link, just send me a LinkedIn message and I'll send you a link to it. It helps educate the ecosystem of, from a counterfeit handbag right through to child slavery and all sorts of things. We're obviously looking for partners always to help us fund these things. We're going to stand up a global intelligence fusion centre that allows us to bring all the intelligence from those 850 plus programs into one place and develop it for better tips to be sent to law enforcement agencies around the world because they're all under-resourced. But ultimately, just read the news and be good citizens.
Now I can't afford Chanel, then I've got to read the news. I'm like, honestly, what more do you want, Hayley? So do you guys spell your name so that everybody knows where to find you?
HAYLEYVAN space LOON, Van Loon.
That's why. You see, people just give me these funny names. I think it's a conspiracy.
Van Loon in Australian.
Van Loon. When you look at running, it's absolutely my last question. When you look at running Crime Stoppers now, and then you've got your day job, because as I said, she's an entrepreneur, she's a mother, she's a wife, what then? Or is it the growth of this that's what's next?
I think 2026 is going to be a difficult year for the world. And so I'm looking pretty short term. I have been told that it could be, the year that kind of defines everything. So I think I just want to focus on what I'm doing now and doing it well.
Amazing. I think you're fabulous. Thank you very much.